Hey guys, Jane with the Summer Rain channel. Welcome back. So today we're going to make a do-it-yourself solid bubble bath. And what this is exactly what the name sounds like. It is bubble bath in solid form. I absolutely love the way that these turned out with the mold that I was using. I did put the full recipe down in the description box below. I also put a link to my blog where I go just a little bit more in depth about all the ingredients, why we use them, and all of that jazz. I did want to let you know if you don't have the mold, that's absolutely fine. You can certainly make these without a mold. So these two I just kind of hand molded them onto the stick, so you don't necessarily need a mold to make them. There's so many different things that you can do with this one bubble bar recipe. Without further ado, let's dive in and make them.
The first ingredient that we're going to use is baking soda. Now, baking soda is used to help create the dough for the bubble bar, right? Because we need something to make it into a dough consistency. Also, when you put baking soda in bath water, it makes it softer because it makes it just slightly more alkaline. Now our next ingredient is cream of tartar. We use the cream of tartar to help harden up the bubble bar, and it helps to hold all the ingredients together so it doesn't end up falling apart. Then we're going to have arrowroot powder. Now arrowroot powder is used to help thicken the bar up, and it also makes the bath water feel just a little bit softer. Another thing that we use to help harden this bar is kaolin clay. And you might be wondering why we have so many things to harden the bar. That's because we need it to be a dough consistency, but we also need it to get really hard and to become solid so it's not going to get damaged when you're making your different shapes. And then for our surfactant, we have SLSA. Now this actually comes from coconut and palm oils, and it's a natural surfactant. Basically, it's what's going to go ahead and give these bubble bars the bubbling. So this surfactant is the main surfactant in our bubble bar. Next, we have our wet ingredients. So we have vegetable glycerin. Now the reason why I use vegetable glycerin is it's a humectant, which means that it draws water from the air to itself. In the bath, what this is going to do is it's going to draw moisture from the bath to your bubbles, making the bubbles last just a bit longer. Now our next surfactant is polysorbate 80, and it's not a surfactant in the way that you normally think about it that creates bubbles. This is a surfactant that's actually used as an emulsifier. So we need an emulsifier because we're going to be adding oils into this bubble bar, and we need it to mix into the tub completely, right? We don't want a weird pool of oils on the top of our tub, so we use polysorbate 80. Now, the rule of thumb is you use a 2-to-1 ratio. So 1 part polysorbate 80 for 2 parts of oil. Another cool thing about the polysorbate 80 is it kind of prevents the mica powder from sticking to the edge of your tub, so you don't have such a big mess to clean up when you add color into your bubble bar. Now our third surfactant is cocoa glucoside. Now I'm using this as a secondary surfactant to the SLSA, and it's going to create bigger, richer bubbles. We also want to add an oil to this, and you can use any oil that you'd like, but I decided to go ahead and use cocoa butter. Now I chose this because it is a brittle butter. Again, I want to do everything that I can to really harden these bubble bars as quickly as I can. So by using a harder butter, it's going to make it a little bit more solid. And I also love the skin benefits and kind of the smell of the cocoa butter. So cocoa butter actually smells just a bit like chocolate, which goes perfect with the fragrance oil that I'm using, which is sugared strawberry, and it smells absolutely amazing. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and weigh out all of our ingredients. What you're going to do is go ahead and turn your scale on, put your container on there, and push the tare button. This is going to give you all zeros while the container is on your scale. And then we'll just go ahead and measure out all of our ingredients. Now it's really important that you're using a scale and that you're not trying to do it by like cups and teaspoons and stuff, because that's not going to give you a very accurate recipe, and you're going to have more room for errors. So when you're trying to get the liquids just right and you're making a recipe, you really need a scale in order to do it. The first thing that we want to do is put your cocoa butter into a heat-safe container. We're not going to be able to use it in solid form like this, so we're going to have to go ahead and melt it. Now you can do this either on a double boiler or in the microwave. Either one is fine. Now it's such a small amount in there you can't really see it, but the cocoa butter is in there and it's melted. And to this we're going to add all of our liquid ingredients. So go ahead and add your vegetable glycerin. Polysorbate 80. cocoa glucoside, and our fragrance oil. And then we're just going to go ahead and mix all of this together really well. And we're going to set this off to the side for now. And go ahead and grab a bigger container. This is the one that we'll actually be mixing in. So we're going to add all of the dry ingredients into this one. Baking soda, cream of tartar, arrowroot powder, kaolin clay, and the SLSA. Now SLSA can be an irritant, so I like to pour it really close to the container. And then very gently, we're going to go ahead and just mix these together. And if you'd like, you might want to go ahead and just put on a mask when you're working with the SLSA. To our dry ingredients, we're going to go ahead and add the wet ingredients. And we're going to go ahead and mix this all up. And it can be a little bit hard to mix, which we're going for because, again, we need this to be a dough-like consistency, but really we want it like as thick as possible, because we need these bars to dry to be completely solid. Now, I normally start mixing with my spatula, but then I always end up mixing with my hands. It's kind of like when you're making a pie crust. It just, for some reason, when you mix it with your hands, it just mixes better. So what I like to do is I like to let this sit for about 10 minutes. It feels like when you mix it, it almost gets like super wet, and then if you let it sit for a little bit, it hardens back up. So allow this to sit for 10 minutes before you move to the next step. And we're going to go ahead and add a bit of color to these. So this one I'm going to do with a light pink. And it might be easier to mix this up a little bit by hand. And you're just going to want to keep mixing it until it's all one color. And you can certainly do more than 2 colors if you'd like. If you want to do 3 or 4 or however many colors you want, you certainly can. Ooh, I'm kind of making a mess here. Okay, so this will be our light pink. I just want to mix that up just a wee little bit more. I see just a few blobs in there. And like when you're first starting out, it feels easier to mix with your hand, but then once you get it kind of soft, it can get just a bit sticky. So set this one off to the side. And then this one I'm using a firecracker red. Now for this video, I'm actually coloring all of my bubble bar, but sometimes I like to leave it just as a white, and it really pops against the other colors. So really you can have a lot of fun with coloring it, or if you just want to do one color and a white, as you can see, that would look kind of cool. Now I'm using mica powder for my bubble bars, which doesn't really color the bath water. So if you wanted your bath water to be colored with this bubble bar, what you're going to want to do is use like a lake dye. Now if you use a lake dye, definitely wear some gloves because you're not trying to stain your skin or anything like that. If at any point your dough feels too sticky, just add a little bit of baking soda to it. And you're just going to go ahead and mix that in really well, and it'll thicken it back up. It's not going to hurt it at all. Just be careful when you're doing it that you're not putting so much that your bar gets too dry and you're not able to work with it. But if it gets too sticky on you, really easy fix. A little bit more baking soda, and then it'll be in a nice thick consistency. As you can see here, it's not like sticking to my hands or anything. So now we'll go ahead and grab our mold and then our sticks. So these sticks are too long for the mold, so I went ahead and just cut them in half. Let's go ahead and actually make our bubble bars. Or mold them, I guess it's already made, just mold them. Now I'm going to start by pressing a little bit in there, and then I'm going to come in with the stick, really push that in there good, and put a wee little bit right on the top. That way the stick's directly in the middle. And then you'll just spend a little bit of time kind of fixing the back of this and completely fill in your mold. Now, if you can see here, like around the edges, to make sure that it's in the mold, I kind of push up at it, if that makes sense. And I'm just pushing down to make sure that it's going all the way to the corner of these lips. Now I'll do the same thing with the red. And then when I put my stick in, if you just push it down as hard as it can, it'll go in there like as deep as the mold allows it. And then to change it up a little bit, I think in this one, I'm going to kind of swirl the colors just a bit. I'm going to get them mixed together, but not all the way. So typically, if you rip it apart like this, you get a nice mixture. Then we'll mix together a wee little bit more to fill our mold. And then in this one, I'm going to try to do it like half and half. See how that looks. And then for my last one, I'm going to marble it again. And I'm making sure that I put the cut edge of these sticks towards the inside of the bar so you don't see it, so the bottom's still the factory edge. And then I'll just fix any of these up. And now we're going to just go ahead and allow these to dry a bit in the mold. I'll probably leave them in here to dry for at least a day, maybe 2. And then say if you don't have the mold and you want to make your bubble bar on the stick, what you can do is just roll it out into whatever shape. This one I'm going to kind of do like maybe like a lollipop shape. Put the stick right in the middle and then come in and fix the shape a little bit. And then I'm going to set this on parchment paper to dry also. It's been 24 hours and these are starting to harden up. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and release them from the mold. I start by, I know it's plastic, but I kind of pull on the sides just a bit. Oh. And then they'll kind of fall out for you. And there are the finished bubble bars.
I really hope you enjoyed the video. I really hope you enjoy making and using your solid bubble bath as much as I did. Bye!